Accountants in the UK, it's time to have a very frank and honest conversation. The fact is that your world is different. How do you market yourself? What do you do post-COVID? How do you get out there? How do you win new clients? Here to talk to us is somebody who loves dealing with accountants. She understands their pain. Jessica Shales, welcome to scottcundill.com.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Jess. Let's begin. What are accountants going through at the moment?
The two main challenges that I've heard accountants talk about in particular this year, and it's a continuation of kind of existing problems. One, they are facing competition not just from other accountants, but also the offshore contractors who are trying to undercut them, and improvements in software, but also now software providers are providing the service alongside the software. So it's kind of cutting them out and their opportunity. Then the other thing is that they're losing business when their clients go out of business. So they're suddenly having to replace business quite quickly, or facing that when their traditional way of networking face to face is no longer an option. And that tried and tested technique is no longer there. So those are the two main challenges.
Well, yeah, I know what that's like, because having been to many networking events in the UK, there's always an accountant there. In fact, I got my accountant from a networking event. Face-to-face networking is so important, and that's all but gone. I know there's virtual networking, but if you're an accountant right now and you're starting to feel the pinch of losing those clients because of COVID, what is the first step that you should do to start marketing yourself?
Yeah, because face-to-face, that's a great way of building know, like, and trust. And the reason why networking works really well is that you get to see the personality, you get to know the person and get to see their expertise and authority. And also to there's the building of trust, but also to feel like you have a real human connection, and online networking just doesn't do it the same way. So it's really making the most of the digital channels that are available, and making sure that you have a consistent online experience or online presence that reflects that real world experience. Often we see that the online presence of an accountant doesn't reflect who we see in real life. And this happens with a lot of businesses, but often the importance of being very professional actually removes a lot of the personality there. So what I'd say is think about how people get to know, like, and trust you in a real life environment, and try and reflect that as much as possible in your online communications. This means a lot of online content that is consistent with that is more brand building than promotional. And I think a lot of social media can be used to sell or be more promotional, but actually it works an awful lot better when you're talking more about your values, you're sharing things that you're doing, when you put your team forward, because people do business with people. And often with social media, the people hide in the background, whereas the more you can do to bring those people forward and to show personality that reflects who you are in real life, then the better those channels are going to work for you.
I like this. That's something that's very close to my heart. As you know, it's building the personal reputation of the individual. But you've said something that I haven't thought about, actually, even myself, and that is the team around you should become more of a player. They should be putting themselves forward. Did I hear that correctly? And it can actually help your social media, and it can actually help your online presence?
Yeah, exactly. LinkedIn is a perfect example where if you post something from a company page, and you post exactly the same content from a personal profile, the personal profile will always get more engagement, because people do business with people even in an online environment. So really get your team involved in the same way that they would go to networking. Get them to go to the online networking platform with LinkedIn. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't help them with that content, and it doesn't mean that you can't provide the guides, but the individuals might just need that support to know how to represent themselves and still represent the company in a way that you're happy with. I think a lot of people, they don't feel comfortable posting things on social media or on LinkedIn because they're used to posting on Facebook, and it is a very different environment. You know, your own views you can put on Facebook, and you can put videos of funny cats and dogs and stuff like that, but when you're representing yourself professionally or your company on LinkedIn, then that can feel daunting for some people. So there's an awful lot you can do to support those professionals.
So where would you begin? Because you've said a lot and it's quite daunting. And I think you've even mentioned the word daunting, and it is daunting because where do you start? I mean, the list of options behind you. And I know you work with many accountants, you work with professional services, and you offer all these kind of digital things, and they're so overwhelming. But like, how do I, as an accountant, sit back and take a step back and go, okay, where do I start? If you were to be sitting in front of me right now, how would you alleviate my concern and go, okay, Scott, this is where we will start?
Always start by getting to know your customers. Although the technology and the different channels are complex, and they will probably become more complex and there'll be more options, the fact is marketing fundamentals around understanding your customer are still the best place to start. So get to understand what it is that you, what value it is that you provide to your customers, what problem they're looking to solve, and you know, their concerns and everything else. And then it's easier to speak to them on a human level, because you are not just listing services, which we see very often with a lot of businesses. You know, it's just a list of services. What you want to do is to directly connect the solution that you can provide with the problem that they have. And the more that you understand about their concerns, the better your communication can be. You can create messaging that reflects what they want to see. You can create a strategy and choose the right platform for where your customers are. Any kind of marketing strategy becomes intuitive and really common sense almost if you start with understanding your customers.
I love that, common sense. And you're right. So you're starting from a place that understands your customer, know who you're targeting, and then take it from there. So what is your first step, Jess, when you first sit with an accountant? What's your first step in the process? Do you sit with them for an hour or two? Do you workshop it? Do you look at their website to start off with? What is that very, very first step that you take to say, okay, where do I as an accountant begin this big wide world of digital?
So we have this almost a formal structure to the getting to know your customer, which is persona development, which then ends up in a marketing strategy. And it is very much about grouping your customers and your ideal customers. And even within accountants, different firms, you know, you're going to have people that you prefer to do business with, whether that's industries, sizes of companies, you know, specialist areas where, you know, you can provide value. So group those up and then go one by one through them, and you know, define what their problems are that you solve, and where they're hanging out, you know, what job titles they have and everything else, and then prioritize those personas depending upon what business opportunity there is there, and then that produces a marketing plan. So it's quite a structured approach to what I've just said about getting to know your customers. And you just see light bulbs kind of pinging off all over the place. So it's a really satisfying experience. And once you've done that, it will have probably evolved with your business a little bit, but you end up with the information that can drive all of your marketing, whether that's the campaigns that you're picking, the measurements that you put in place, the messaging, the imagery. Everything becomes much easier as a result of that process.
Beautiful. And I've actually seen that take place. I've actually seen a very successful accounting firm simply focus on biotech companies in Oxfordshire.
Right.
Yeah, so it's not being afraid to drill down your target audience and saying, this is who I'm going to go for. Can you give us an example, just to finish off, of the type of industry that accountants could focus on?
Well, people, I think you're right. People can get scared of, any business can be scared that, you know, by pigeonholing themselves, they're saying no to business. But actually, if you try and target everybody, then you'll probably resonate with nobody. We've seen specialists. It depends on where your passion is, to be honest. So we've seen accountants for solicitors, we've seen accountants for sports, or even where they've set up sub companies for particular industries, because people, any businesses or any consumer will respect and feel more comfortable working with someone who really understands their problems, their unique problems. So it's not so much pigeonholing as just targeting. You know, you don't need to say no to people, but what you're really doing is opening your arms up to those people who you can work with really well. And it might be something where when you started up, you never meant to go down this route, but in the end, you just find that those are who you enjoy working with. So we've seen it with solicitors, with sports. We've seen it with lawyers. I'm just trying to remember any others, but yeah, I think it's a good strategy for any business.
Absolutely. So Jess, I'm sure that there are a lot of people that want to talk to you. Clearly, you have a great knowledge of the industry, especially the pain points and what accountants and professional services people are going through at the moment. What's the best way for them to get hold of you?
Well, our website is theidealmarketingcompany.co.uk, and we offer a lot of different services there, but we also offer a free website review, so and a free marketing consultation. So that can be the best place to just have a no obligation conversation about what your problems are and how we can solve them. You know, there is no one size fits all solution, and your problems are as unique as your customers' problems are. So wherever you are in your journey, then please do get in contact, and we can just talk it through.
Wonderful. Jessica Shales, thank you so much for joining me on scottcundill.com.
Thank you very much, Scott. Thank you for having me.